Hello, my name is Mark Greenburg. I'm a teacher from Phoenix, and my presentation is called Chicken Scratch, Wolfram for the Homeroom, and it's going to be about a game that I've devised that uses the Wolfram language to spawn millions of trivia questions, academic trivia questions. Hi, thank you for coming. I'm Mark Greenburg, and I'm here to talk about Chicken Scratch, but let me give you a little bit of background first. I'm as my wife likes to call it, a semi-retired English and math teacher in the high school level, juniors and seniors mostly, and that's what the game is designed for. But I'm also an amateur programmer, and that's basically why I'm here at the conference, because I've got experience programming. Now, I learned early on in my programming that programming computers is a good way to solve practical problems. For instance, we had a wrestling tournament that we were hosting at our school, and it completely fell apart because nobody knew how to keep score. Wrestling tournaments are very difficult to keep score at. So by the next year, I had designed a program to keep score at the wrestling tournament. So that sort of experience in solving practical problems led me to solving the biggest problem that I had as a teacher. And if any of you are teachers here, you know what I'm talking about. That is engaging the student. Getting the student, we think that our subject matter is interesting, but the students don't necessarily, especially in high school where it's compulsory. So trying to get them hooked in and engaged in the subject matter is the biggest problem that I had as a teacher. Well, one of my solutions to that was to turn what I was teaching into games. Not entirely. I mean, you can't teach Beowulf as a game. You can't teach a lot of the things as a game, but some things you can. So when I could, I would turn it into a game, into a computer game because of my programming background. And so over the years, starting in about 1998 or so, I made many different games, over 100 titles, and then I left teaching and became a curriculum developer for a private company, and they had me making games as well, made over 100 games for them. And then when I left them, I was semi-retired and started making more games, and I've got about 100 titles up on the internet now. All of the games that I've programmed, by the way, not all of those are in the Wolfram language. I just got turned on to the Wolfram language about 2 years ago. So all of the games, most of the games that I've made have been one-player game. They're all educational, one-player games, and free response. So the student would get some kind of stimulus from the computer, and they would have to respond back to the computer in some way. But the most popular game, Chicken Scratch, is a two-player game, and it's not free response, it's multiple choice. So when you see this and you think, wow, that's kind of simple because it's multiple choice, that's not my usual design, but that is what how Chicken Scratch is made. Now I'm going to show you some example questions from Chicken Scratch. Oh, the original Chicken Scratch, way back around 2000, 1999, around then, had about 300 questions in it. It's a trivia type question, or trivia type game, and the questions were static. In other words, I wrote the question and that question stayed the same no matter how many times you played. And it was such a popular game that the kids were lining up before school, during lunch, and after school to play the game. Anytime that I wasn't actually teaching a class, the kids were coming to my classroom to play. So to fix that up, I looked at the Wolfram language and saw an opportunity. The Wolfram language has the ability for me to write a template question that'll spawn thousands, in some case millions, of questions from that one template. So if I have enough templates, no matter how many times a student plays, they'll never see the same question. So the kid that came in every day at lunch won't become an expert unless he's really good at the academic questions. You know, he's not going to memorize the questions. So I know a lot of talking, nothing to look at, except for the fractal on the screen. So I'll go ahead and advance through the slides. Okay, this first one is an example. These are all going to be examples at the beginning of questions in Chicken Scratch. And so you can see that it asks a question, it gives you 4 possible answers, and in many cases it gives you a graphic. And because Wolfram is so good at creating graphics fairly easily, I want to make the best use of that. So you'll see graphics in many of the questions. And in this one you can see it's a geolocation, geomap type question. I always read the question. The map shows the moves from birth, blue to death, red, of which of these famous people? Anybody have an answer for that? I'm sorry, Mark Antony is correct, yeah. And so kids might not know who these people are, but they might recognize the name Mark Antony as somebody that is related to Julius Caesar or Cleopatra, and realize that, hey, that map is showing only areas that are in the Roman Empire. So they might not know the answer per se, but they're able to piece it together. And that's the key really to all of the questions in Chicken Scratch, is that they offer an opportunity to take what you know in the world and kind of use gestalt methods, if you will, to come up with an answer rather than specifically knowing the answer. What else did I want to say about this slide? I think that's it. Oh, there's a low level of variability in this particular question because I've built a mini database from the Wolfram curated data. I've taken my own subset of that, and it's only got about 25 different famous people, and the database also says where have they moved throughout their lives. And so this is this is generated real time, the map is, from that data. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next one. Okay, so this one is another example. This is taken from the stock data. I think it's called stock data in Wolfram Alpha, or in Wolfram language. And for this one, let me think a second. Okay, this one's more variable than the last question. Because in this one, I've got about 111 companies that I've pulled out from the larger set that Wolfram has, companies that the students would recognize, or very large companies that they wouldn't recognize. And so 111 of those, and the way I wrote the template, the game will ask one of 14 different questions for that company. Okay, so it may ask what is on what day was the highest volume? On what day was the lowest open? On what day was the highest close? What day was the greatest? This one says the best performance. And not only that, but this is real-time data. So it's actually taking the last 5, well, I made this slide a couple weeks ago, but whenever you're playing, it's going to take the last 5 trading days and form the question from that. So every time a student sees, or a player sees this question, it's going to be different because it's taking a different 5 trading days for the question. Boy, time really does fly when you're up here. Okay. All right, the next example on this one, a larger variability in this question because it's randomly generating the function and it's randomly choosing from random real the 2 x values that go in there. So what's the approximate value of this? Now I want to show you clever students that understand algebra very well will realize they don't have to calculate anything here. I haven't given them actually enough information. You notice that the function rule is not up there for them to do any calculations. And they only get maybe 30 seconds, 45 seconds or so to answer, and then they have to give an answer. So on this one, they might realize that f of 2.5 is going to be over here. And that whole side of the function is negative. F of negative 1.7, is going to be over on the left-hand side, which is all positive, or almost all positive. So they might realize that a negative times a positive is going to be a negative number. So no calculation needed. If they're clever and they understand the algebra pretty well, they can jump to an answer. And that's the case in many of the questions. And since they're randomly generated, sometimes that'll be more obvious than others for students. Okay, this one's kind of neat, I think. I actually took the astronomical formula for the Doppler effect and had it plugged in some random variables and had it formulate the visual. And so on this one, like I said, I always read the questions, and I read the questions for a specific educational reason, and that is, I know how the educational language is supposed to sound in context. So by the players hearing me read many different contexts and using the academic language, for instance, the word indicates or the word observed object, that kind of layers their understanding of the academic language, the vocabulary. So in this one, the Doppler shift of the observed object indicates that it is moving. And anybody have a guess on this one? Okay, it is moving towards us, you're right. So you just eliminated half of the answers. Yeah, it's hard to go from there, right? The right answer is the top answer because it's quite a far blue shift on that one. So if a student has seen blue shifts before, they might recognize that it's a larger blue shift than usual. Okay, so the last example, and if everything works right, I'll show you a live example of this. This is where I use the Wolfram graphics, I think, to their fullest, at least to the fullest that I'm able to do. And in this one, the habitat range for which of these aquatic species is shown in the blue chart, or in blue in the chart. And you can see that one of the bars is blue, and it's basically asking which one of those animals is the blue one. Well, now that's a 3D graphic, so I can rotate that. I can't do it here because this is a static slide, but I knew that that was going to happen, so I've got it primed up, hopefully, to know what happened here. Okay, maybe. Please work, yes. Okay, there we go. This is a live question in Chicken Scratch. Same question, just a different random variation of that question. Like I said, they're templates and it gets filled in randomly. So same question, the habitat range for which of these aquatic animals, and the question is asking about the Atlantic butterfish, the glass eye, the grass porgy, or porgy, I'm not sure, or a fish called the tusk. And notice that I can rotate that this way, and they can see where the animals live as far as the depth. This is 500 meters, so one of these, the one we're looking for, is in very shallow water only. All the other ones are in fairly deep water, and one of them's in, looks like deep ocean water, lives in deep ocean water. And if I rotate it this way, you can tell what latitudes they live in. Oh, that's not good. Okay, that's really bad. Okay, so the whole, I just got the blue screen of death is what happened.
Oh, on the laptop.
On the laptop, yeah. It's not the projector, it's the laptop. Okay, it's coming back up now, okay. So what I was hoping to do, and looks like my timing's about right if the computer comes up. Okay, It just went totally blue here and totally black on the screen.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so let's see. And I'm not sure where they stored my files.
Right on the desktop.
Okay, I see it. Okay. Okay, so while I'm doing this, let's see if I can do this and talk at the same time. In the talkable, okay, I could try that. Yeah, that is going to be easier because this folder seems to have a bunch of talk files. Well, wait, I think I've got it. Chicken Scratch and CDF. Okay, what I wanted to do, I was going quickly because I wanted to play a little bit of Chicken Scratch with you because you don't get the feel for it unless you play because there's a competitive aspect to it. And are you seeing this? You are? That's good. Let's get it full screen. Okay, and looks like I've got about 2 or 3 minutes to play. So why don't we divide the audience up right here. This side will be team 1, and this side will be team 2. Okay, just so you get an idea, we'll only play a couple of questions. Normally we play to 300, whoever gets to $300 first is the winner. So it is pointing to team number 2. So what category would you like? Anybody from team? Literature? Okay, I heard literature. So I'm going to pick literature. There's 15 categories in the game. Only 9 of them show at any time so that if somebody's really good at one of the categories, they don't run the board. Okay, in the writings of JRR Tolkien, which of these characters is a man of Berthil? Berthil. Okay, who would... Okay, Ellen Dill, give it a try. Okay, what just happened? It shouldn't be loading anything when I click the answer. It should have played a sound. Oh, and it didn't even play the sound. Okay, that's what you hope doesn't happen when you're speaking, but that's okay. So that was the wrong answer. Anybody from this side want to give it a try? Which answer would you like to pick? Okay. Okay, now that question, and it's loading again. I don't know why. It doesn't, the 100 times I practiced before this, it didn't do that. Okay, so that was correct. Let's just do maybe one more question or 2. Okay, so it's this team number 1. What category would you like to pick? Geography, all right. Okay, now it does have to go out to the cloud and come back, and that might be why it is showing loading on the bottom and moving a little bit more slowly than when I play it in the classroom. Normally it's a very smooth game. There we go. Which region of France is shown in red on this map? Anybody from team number 1 can answer? Yeah, I think you guys are in trouble because if they get it, there's somebody over there that knows. What do you think? Okay, he's saying the second one. Second one was not correct. Okay. I'm not going to try to pronounce that, thank you. Okay. So that's the way the game works. And you can see, I mean, the audience was pretty pretty sedate until we started playing, right? And now we've got smiles and interest. That's what happens in the classroom too. So that's Chicken Scratch. Now, I am uploading Chicken Scratch, all the files. There's a lot of files that make the game work because there's a lot of cloud objects that it's pulling from to make the questions. I'm making those available on GitHub. I'm saying making because I didn't get them all uploaded before the conference started. So I'll get them all up there, and you are welcome to download them. And I'll put some instructions in there too about how to configure it so that it'll work on your system. It works. It's totally Mathematica. So if you've got Mathematica, you can make this work. What else? I do have on Talkable 5 of the files so that you can open it up and look at it. It calls out to some web objects. The web objects return 4 different pieces of data. Returns the question either as a string or a string form. It returns the answer as an integer 1 through 4 because there's only 4 choices. It returns 4 strings, which are not always strings. Sometimes they're images or something, but 4 objects that are the choices, and then an optional graphic. And the graphic can be either an image, as you've seen some, or a real Wolfram graphic. Okay, now I know I went through this quickly, and I'm going to take questions, 5 minutes worth of questions, or 2 minutes worth of questions. I'm sorry? Okay, okay. So I have to leave right after this. So I'm going to hand out my card to anybody that wants to contact me and learn more, maybe get it. There's actually a playable version on Talkable too. So what questions do you have? Yes.
Seems you programmed all the programming languages before.
Uh-huh.
And you just were exposed 2 years ago to
Yes.
how do you find the learning curve?
I found the learning curve for Wolfram to be steep at the beginning because I think I wasn't used to functional programming. That threw me a little bit. And then once I got the idea that I could wrap, do the usual just 2 brackets and the name of the function and then put just about anything I want inside of that, then it started to flow more easily. And now it's pretty easy, especially since I can go back to the if-then statements if I can't figure out how to do it the Wolfram way. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.